Hey everybody, this is Chris Francis from Church Film School, and today is a special day not only because I didn't get pulled over last night, but because we are doing a full-blown review of this guy right here. It's the Fotodiox Pro Factor Prizmo 300 RGB+W 1x2 LED light. Holy cow, could that have been a longer name? I don't think so. And we'll also be reviewing its little brother, which is the 150 watt 1x1 as well, which is currently cycling through neon colors in the background because, let's face it, nothing lets other people know that you are down with RGB like a completely unmotivated neon light in the background. Now, in the past, I've only reviewed gear that I've bought or rented on my own because it's super important to me that I only feature gear that I use in real life on real projects, and luckily, the kind folks at Fotodiox were nice enough to let us hang on to these lights for several months so we could use them on all of our normal projects. Now, later in this video, I'm going to show some real-world examples from those projects that we use these lights on, but first I want to go over the lights themselves and run through some of the features. Other than the size and light output, the 1x2 and the 1x1 are practically the same light with the same features, so I'll be talking about them interchangeably throughout this review. So, what are these lights? In short, they're a much more affordable and a little less powerful version than the Arri Skypanel, which is definitely the industry standard when it comes to LED panels. Personally, I love big, soft lighting, so I was really intrigued to try these lights out, and they did not disappoint. The Prizmos are powerful and versatile soft sources of light, and by using LED technology, they put out a lot of light without drawing much power, and they can even be powered off of V-mount batteries on the back. Now, the 1x2 is 300 watts and the 1x1 is 150 watts. These lights have a reported CRI of over 95, which means they produce clean and accurate colors, and they are also flicker-free, so they should play well with slow motion. Now, my camera only shoots up to 60 frames per second, so I couldn't test them at super high frame rates, but at 60 frames, they did not flicker at all. Now, since I do a lot of my work out on location, I'm generally pretty happy with a big, soft daylight source, so I can shape and supplement existing daylight that's coming in the room, which these lights do a great job of. But they also have several other features that make it like having 3 or 4 different lights combined into one. The first mode is CCT mode, which is the mode that I've used the most, and this mode allows you to dial in white light color temperatures ranging from warm 2800 Kelvin to super cold 10,000 Kelvin. You can adjust the intensity in very precise increments from 100% all the way down to 0.1%. The next mode is HSI, which lets you dial in any color from the 360-degree color wheel in 1 degree increments. You can also adjust the saturation of the color from 1 to 100% as well as the intensity of the light. The next mode is RGB+W, which is another way of dialing in a specific color where you can pretty much make any flavor of light by adjusting the red, green, blue, and white channels. But one thing to note here is that I have not found a way to adjust the intensity of the light in this mode, so it seems that for now, full 100% is your only option. There's also a filters menu where you can select popular filters that emulate gels that you would put on traditional tungsten or daylight sources. The menu has a ton to choose from, but to be honest, I don't see any real reason to use the traditional CTB or CTO filters since you can just dial in the exact color temperature that you want in CCT mode. However, I could see this coming in handy if you are shooting in an environment like an office with fluorescent lights where you need to use plus or minus green to get your Prizmo lights to match the green magenta color shifts that are already present in the room. One other thing to note as well, in the filter mode right now, your only options on color temperature are tungsten 3200 Kelvin or daylight 5600 Kelvin. And lastly, it would not be a new RGB light without a handful of built-in special effects modes. These are pretty fun, and I could definitely see these coming in handy on conceptual art or performance videos. And some of the other options could be great for when you need a practical effect, like cop car lights, or a warm flickering fire, or fireworks, or something like that. Now, I will note that on these lights that I was using, the lightning effect didn't seem to work as of right now. You can also create 3 of your own preset scenes that you can toggle between on the menu, so if you need to quickly switch back and forth between 2 or 3 very different looks, you could do this very quickly through this menu. Now, being a single source LED panel, these lights are soft and will spread light just about everywhere. So they come with barn doors that just pop into place to help control the spill when you want to shape the light a little bit. They also come with a softbox and a layer of diffusion to make them even softer. And they also come with a grid that velcros on the front of the diffusion to control the spill. You could also use this grid without the diffusion if you wanted to have a stronger output of light but still want to control where it goes. Now, there are a few other features in this light that I won't go over too much in this video because I personally didn't use them. But the lights do have the ability to be controlled remotely and programmed remotely via a DMX console. They also came with the 2.4 GHz wireless remote control, but to be honest, I didn't use them because I've never used a remote control with a light, so I totally forgot that was even an option when we were out in the field. However, I could see this option being handy in situations where you're a one-man band or when you've placed the light in a hard-to-reach location, like super high up on a light stand, or if you plan to hang these from a grid like in your studio. One last thing to mention is that the built-in fan to keep these lights from overheating is pretty quiet, but if you need absolute silence, you can turn the fan completely off. Now, I'm not sure how long you could run the light with no fan, but it does have an aluminum body that should dissipate the heat pretty well. Now that we've gone through the features, I'll share how I've used these lights on some of my own projects. The first project we used them on was an all-day shoot capturing interviews for a documentary series. In all, we shot 4 different setups with the lights, utilizing the 1x2 as our key light, shooting through a 6x6 diffusion to make the light even bigger and softer. And we also used the 1x1 on a few of the setups as a subtle edge or hair light. And while the 1x2 didn't pack enough punch to combat the sunlight outside the windows, I honestly don't think any other light would have either, so I can't blame the Prizmos for that one. The next project I used them on was for an on-location YouTube talk show. And for this project, we swapped out the lights that we normally use on the show, which I'll admit are cheap knockoff Kino Flow fluorescent lights, and we swapped those out with the Prizmos. We put the softbox on the 1x2 to create a big, soft, double diffused key light, and then we also shot the 1x1 through the same diffusion as well to get a little bit more light in there so we could keep a clean exposure while stopping down on our C camera on the slider to f4 to help us maintain better focus. We also used the other 1x2 to kick into the ceiling to raise the overall ambience of the room. We used the softbox with no diffusion on the front to help control the spill of the light in the room while still getting the maximum output of the light source. Now, we shoot this show every month, so we're always at the mercy of what the sun is doing that day, but on this day it was overcast for the entire day, and the extra power from these lights helped us maintain an even and bright look throughout the entire day. Now here you can see what the show looked like in the past using our old lights. And because our old fluorescent lights are less powerful, we cannot double diffuse them, which makes them a little bit harsher on the talent. And as it gets a little warm in there, it's pretty easy to get shiny. And also in post, sometimes color correction can be tricky because we're mixing the fluorescent lights that do have a little bit of a green shift to them with the pure daylight that's coming from outside. So sometimes that can be tricky to get a good overall balance in the color grade to make both the room and the talent look great and balanced at the same time. However, on our latest shoot with the Prizmos, you can see how much more even and flattering the light is. We lose some of the shine on the talent and we're able to raise the ambience in the room to feel brighter. And in post, I didn't have to do any major color correction to account for any green or magenta shifts. I just boosted the contrast and saturation a little bit and then I was done. There's a lot to like about these lights, and for me, what I like the most is that they create a big, soft source of light that is pretty powerful and very clean. And having used a lot of lower budget lights in the past, it feels good to not have to worry about doing a lot of correction in post to make up for the fact that I was using kind of janky lights on set. And I also like that you can dial in the exact color temperature that you want. Now, I've used a lot of lights in the past that are tungsten only or daylight only, that now that I've gotten used to using lights like this where I can just change everything with a dial, I do not want to go back. The RGB modes on these lights are cool, but they're not necessarily my style as I tend to shoot for more of a natural look on most of my shoots. However, I could see myself using these RGB modes to make bolder and more creative lighting choices down the road if the option were just a click away. And the last thing that I really like about these lights, and this is a big one, is the price. The 1x2 right here currently retails for $1,989.95, which is crazy cheap for an LED panel. Like for comparison, the Arri Skypanel S60C, which does put out more light at 425 watts, is a whopping $5,850. And the other light that I would compare this to is the Litepanels Gemini 2x1, which is also just a little bit more powerful than the Prizmo because it's 325 watts. And it does have a slightly higher CRI rating, but it costs $4,845. So with that being said, you could literally almost get 3 of these 2x1 Prizmos for the price of one Arri Skypanel, or you could buy 2 of these for less than the price of the Litepanels Gemini 2x1. And in my opinion, the quality to price ratio here makes the Prizmo a complete no-brainer if you are a church or a freelancer that is looking to step up your lighting game while maximizing your budget. I could see them being a particularly great option if you're looking to purchase a few of these for your studio or shooting space. And unless you're a gaffer and you know that your clients are going to want sky panels, I personally would save your money and get a couple of the Prizmos instead. Now, while there are a lot of things that I love about these lights, I want to be honest and fair, there are a few things that I don't like about these lights. Now, for the most part, I've used these lights out on location, which is probably not their strong suit. While the lights themselves are well built, the free carrying cases that they come in are not. The cases are basically like padded luggage, which unfortunately started falling apart on our very first shoot, kept falling apart on our second shoot, and one of the zippers even broke off the cases during this shoot, and I was hardly doing anything with it. Now, I'm pretty sure the luggage is going to be borderline unusable in a few more shoots. However, if you are going to buy a light that is this big and expensive, and you're going to take it out on location, I highly recommend getting a proper hard case for it anyways. The second thing that makes these lights a little challenging to use on location by yourself or with a small crew is how freaking heavy they are. This 1x2 makes me feel like a total weakling trying to get it up on a light stand because it comes in at a whopping 36 pounds. And once you get it on the stand, it's even harder to raise the stand without the help of somebody. It's pretty much a 2-person job once it gets on a stand. And for comparison's sake, the Arri Skypanel S60C comes in about 10 pounds lighter at 26 pounds. However, the power supply is not built into the light. So if you attached it to the light just like this is, that's another 10 pounds, so it'd actually be the exact same weight at 36 pounds. And the Litepanels Gemini is lighter than both of those, coming in at 22 pounds. So either way, that's pretty heavy for one person to be raising up and down on a stand. So part of that drawback is just the nature of these types of LED panel lights. Now, the Prizmos do come with handles, but in practice, I found it easier to grab it by the yoke when lifting it off and on the stands. On one of my shoots, my DP, who has used the Arri Skypanels a lot, gave me some feedback on using the Prizmos, and he said that they take a long time to turn on, and compared to the Skypanel, the interface is pretty clunky and not as intuitive. Personally, anytime I've been on a shoot with Skypanels, I've had a gaffer who is handling the lights for me, so I'm going to take my DP's word for it on this one. However, I think these Prizmos are pretty easy to figure out. I was able to navigate all the settings on the lights without having to open the user manual at all. And now I do wish there was a quick way to turn these lights off and on when auditioning the light for the camera, because currently it takes about 6 or 7 seconds from the time you turn the switch off to fire them back up again. Whereas like my Falcon Eyes 2x2 LED light clicks right on and right off right away. Coming in at $1,985 for the 1x2 and $1,089 for the 1x1, these Prizmo lights are an incredible value. And personally, I would love to have 3 or 4 of these 1x2s to use here in the big studio, and then to take maybe 1 or 2 of them out in the field with me when I'm going to film interviews or hosted on camera segments, because in these situations, I'm always looking to build a big, soft, flattering light, and these would be perfect for that. I'd also want to buy some heavy duty stands that have wheels on them so I could easily move them around the studio or location without having to lift and carry them because they are super heavy. And while I absolutely love the value of the 1x2, personally I would probably pass on the 1x1 in favor of something a lot lighter and more versatile like my Falcon Eyes 2x2 Flex Light. Oftentimes on my projects like documentaries or B-roll shoots, I'll have my assistant put it on a light stand and literally just follow me around to supplement or shape the light in a moment's notice, which I wouldn't be able to do with a 22-pound Prizmo 1x1. So in conclusion, I'd say 1000% yes on the 1x2 and on the 1x1. In the description of this video, I'm going to put the links to these lights so you can check them out more, and they will be featured again in a few of our upcoming project breakdown videos. So if this video was helpful for you, I would appreciate it if you would like it and subscribe to this channel. And I want to say a very special thanks to Fotodiox for letting us borrow these lights to test out and review them. They've been great, and if you have any questions about them, leave them in the comments below and I would be happy to answer them.